Hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting me today. My name is Tyler Patterson. I'm a lawyer in Wichita, Kansas, and the owner of Patterson Legal Group. You might have seen our billboards if you're driving through Wichita or Topeka or Kansas City. They say, in a wreck, need a check, and that is exactly what we do. When people are injured, we try to get them money for their injuries. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy what I do. And one of my big passions in life is one of the reasons you guys asked me to come here today, and that is ultra running. So you've put together some really great questions. This is certainly a topic that I love talking about. So it's going to be fun going through these. What's your motivation to run? You know, there are so many reasons that I am motivated to run. Uh, every day, I like to run in the morning. And for me, that is starting off my day on the right foot. It's good discipline. I feel like you start with good mental clarity. When you work out in the morning, you're getting those endorphins going and you get your energy levels up for the day. And I feel like you start your day already being successful when you start your day with a run. So that's really my daily motivation. But I also like to set goals in all parts of my life, but specifically in running. It's easy to set a goal by choosing a race, deciding which race you want to do, then coming up with a training plan, following the training plan, and preparing to be the best version of yourself when it comes time for race day. So those training plans look very different depending on the type of race that it is that you are going to do. So it's something that I love doing, and I've had a lot of fun with it. How long have you been running? Also a good question. I did not start running until after college. I think I was the water boy in high school for the cross country team, and then I ended up working, so I didn't get into cross country or track in high school, didn't run a whole lot in college, maybe here and there. But really, I signed up for my first marathon right after college, and that's really when I fell in love with running. I also found a lot of friends in the running community. I mean, run together in the morning. You're having great conversations with people. It's a good way to socialize, and when you start hanging out with the wrong crowd, the runners, uh, they inspire you to do some pretty crazy things. Have you ever thought about quitting running? I would be lying to you if I said, no, I've never thought about quitting. I think about quitting running all the time. The early mornings when it is way too cold outside and you don't want to get up and your alarm clock goes off, it's like, why do I do this to myself? It's so stupid. I think a lot of times in life, we've got negative self-talk that creeps in. And that's for me when I'm running, it'll creep in and say, like, why are you doing this? It's so crazy. Or maybe it's in a race when some of the longer races, some of the ultra marathons, all run for 20 hours or 30 hours. You've been running for, let's say, 20 hours, you are questioning your own sanity at that point. So you're thinking, like, I'm never going to run again. This is the last ultra race that I'm ever going to do. In the end, you always end up, I should say, most of the time, you end up having lots of fun and you're ready to do it again. Do you ever get any money for running? There are people that do get quite a bit of money from running, but for me, it's just a hobby. I think it's really just a handful of athletes that are able to secure sponsorship deals, can get money from the running world. There are a few races, marathon distance, like the Boston Marathon, for example. I think there might be $100,000 prize purse. For the ultra world, the biggest prize in any race that I've heard of, I think might be $1,500. So it's something that would be, without a sponsorship deal, it would be very difficult to make into a career. What do you eat before a run or a race? That's a great question. I will typically, on race day, I'm going for lighter foods. I did make the mistake. There was a marathon, and I decided to eat Chipotle. I got like this big burrito and lots of hot sauce the day before a marathon. It was the Chicago Marathon. And I ended up in the porta potty 10 different times along the course. Don't recommend it. It's much better to go the route of eating lighter food that your body can process quickly and you don't feel quite as heavy as you're running. Um, how much training do you do for an ultra marathon? This question, it really kind of depends on the race itself. So, uh, where I'm at right now, I probably could just go hop into a race that was like a 50K or a 100K. But if I were to do, I've got my eye on a race this next year called Spartathlon, and it's 150 miles through Greece. And that's going to be a significant amount of training. I'm expecting probably a 4 month training plan where I'm doing lots of back to back long runs, trying to build up my endurance. Um, some races, for example, the Leadville 100, require altitude training. In the Leadville 100 race, it's a trail run in Leadville, Colorado. It's the highest town in North America, and the entire race takes place above 10,000 feet altitude. So when I went to run that a few years ago, I ended up getting an altitude tent. Because here in Kansas, we're quite a bit lower than some of those Colorado towns. So the altitude tent that I got, you put it over your bed and you crank up the elevation that you want to sleep at. So I'm like, I might as well put it at 12,000 feet. So it lowers the oxygen level in the tent, and I was able to acclimate. That was part of my training. I also did a lot of hill climbs because it's a mountain race. Um, a year ago, I went and did the Javelina 100 in Scottsdale, Arizona. And that race was a hot weather race. It was brutal. I mean, the sun comes up and you just bake the entire day. So, training for that race was a lot of long runs during the summer. I wanted to go out in 100-degree weather and just get my body acclimated to the temperature. There have been cold weather runs where I want to do the same thing. So training really just looks different for the type of race that you want to do. I find a lot of the hardest training really to be speed training, where you're doing a lot of sprint work. So a lot of times when we're doing marathon training plans, that's what we're looking at is we're focusing singularly on speed. You're doing a lot of different types of workout, but just making sure that you get those low miles, which really can be quite painful, I will tell you. Uh, what are some preparations that you would consider to be most important? Uh, you know, in training, I would say consistency is incredibly important. There are other preparations that go into training. Preparations like making sure you've got the right gear that you want for the race, but ultimately just showing up and uh, being ready for the event that you are about to tackle is very helpful. What's your sleep schedule for a race? My sleep schedule, I am always nervous the night before a race. Usually, I get really excited. It's like, wow, I'm about to attempt something that is like a Herculean feat, and I don't know what to expect. A lot of things can happen. So, just the night before race day, usually it is not great sleep. The week prior to a race, I'm really trying to load up on my sleep. I'll be sleeping in, I'll be taking rest days and going through a taper period where you just kind of slow down um, and allow your body to get into a place where you are really ready to perform. Um, Sleeping in general is very important for recovery. So I'm an 8 hour sleep type of guy. Do you train all year long? How many days a week? I do train all year long. It's just become something that I've worked into my daily schedule. So I like having the ability or the performance level where I'm at and not really going through major ups and downs. But you do have some of that. I find that it's more difficult to train in cold weather months. If it's snowing or ice on the ground, it's like, I'm good. I really don't want to go run outside. And running on the treadmill is always an option inside. Uh, but it can be difficult for those of you who are treadmill runners, like you want to find something to distract you. So for me, it's a little bit harder to run on a treadmill. Do you always eat 3 meals a day? Uh, During a heavy training cycle, I am incredibly hungry and I eat everything in sight. So I would say I probably go closer to 5 meals a day if I am training really hard and my mileage is up fairly high for the week. But just generally speaking, day to day, if I'm not in a training cycle, yeah, it's probably about 3 meals a day. What's your diet when you are training? I don't really follow a special diet. Um, it's more, I just generally try to eat healthy. Um, I don't stress about eating carbs. I try to eat a lot of proteins, try to avoid processed foods, just things that I know can help fuel my body. Do you lift or cross train? Do you even lift, bruh? That's it's a valid question. Yes, I do lift and I do cross train, and I think just in general that runners sometimes struggle doing that. We become really good at one thing, and it's difficult to cross train. But I go to the gym and I go to Orange Theory regularly, which is like a boot camp type high intensity interval training workout. But I think it's really helpful. You want to make sure that you've got a strong core when you're a runner, and I think that will allow for longevity in the sport because running can really be hard on your body. So it's important to train, it's important to cross train, to lift, it's important to stretch to make sure that you are really taking care of your body. We only get one body. What's your 1 mile time? Last year I did a 5:08 mile. Whew, man, oh man, those fast miles are so incredibly painful. Uh, my 5K time, hmm, I honestly don't know. I think my fastest 5K, I'm running somewhere around 6 minute miles, but that's I just don't enjoy it. It's way too fast. And then my fastest marathon time is 2 hours and 55 minutes, and that's running roughly. I think I was doing 6 minute 45, 47 seconds, somewhere in that neighborhood. That may even be a little fast, but uh, for a marathon distance, like mm, it gets really tough towards the end. Sometimes, really, this may surprise you, but the 100-mile runs are easier on the body than a fast marathon because you're really slowing down your pace. And I mean, if you're running 114-minute miles, it might be easier on your body than 26 6-minute miles. where you're really at that peak of performance with your body. How do you feel about a vegan diet? Uh, I think a vegan diet is great. If it's probably a challenge, I would imagine in Kansas. I bet that you guys in Lawrence have a lot more options than some parts of Kansas for maintaining a vegan diet. But I think as long as you've got your protein up there, that a vegan diet can be incredibly healthy and may even give you additional benefits than uh, other alternative diets. So more power to you. I also think that the ultra community in general, in large part, has a lot of people that have embraced a vegan lifestyle. So uh, that's kind of cool to see in the sport. How long did it take you to finish a marathon at your slowest? Okay, so my slowest marathon, I think maybe 5 hours. But you know what? Like, anytime you finish a race, I think there's something to be said, even if you're having an absolutely terrible day. I mean, if you make it across the finish line, you've done something really incredible. My longest ultra marathon time was 29 hours, 30 minutes. That was the Leadville race, and I was very close to getting cut off by the clock. I only had 30 hours to finish, but I made it just in the nick of time. Does your form of breathing pattern change between ultra marathons and marathons? What is your form, and what does your breathing pattern look or sound like? Uh, it absolutely changes between the two, and it changes really, I think, notably in a very short distance race, like a 1 mile, trying to do like a 1 mile PR or a 5K race. Uh, you get into like that anaerobic territory where, I mean, you are just trying to get as much oxygen into your lungs as you possibly can. And so it's really like ugly sounding in the shorter races. But then in an ultra marathon, like you got to pace yourself because you're going to be going for hours and hours. So you want to breathe a little bit slower, a little more relaxed. Uh, that's that's an interesting question. I like that one. What are you thinking about in the last 20 miles of an ultra marathon? That's, I seriously, I'm just questioning my own sanity most of the time, and you're trying to quiet that part of your mind that does give you negative self-talk. And really, it's an important lesson in life. The negative self-talk, you learn to ignore it. You learn to put it aside because it's something that everybody has, but you really cannot focus on it if you want to be successful. Has anyone cheated? If so, what was the weirdest way someone cheated? Uh, yes, there have been cheaters in the sport. There was actually a big controversy in the ultra world this last year. There was a trainer, Ashley Polson, who is an incredible athlete, an incredible triathlete. She's a professional, and she ran the Badwater 125, which is a race that takes place in Death Valley. It is upwards of 120 degrees. It's very, very dry there, but running in at 120 degrees, even though it's low humidity, is still like absolutely brutal. A lot of people say it's the hardest race in the world, is the Badwater 125. She set a woman's course record and she didn't cheat, but there were allegations originally that people thought that she had cheated. She dressed the same way as her pacer. A pacer is someone that comes in and like towards the later part of a race, they'll just run with you to try to lift your spirits up. Well, they had dressed identically, and people accused her of giving her pacer her watch while she just went and sat in the back of a van and was driven up a mountain for 20 miles. So people thought, oh, she definitely cheated because she set a course record. She had never done ultras before. So they did this big investigation and they go through her watch data and they interview people, and they're interviewing her husband, and her husband says, like, you know what? She didn't cheat. I was telling her she was about to set a course record and she was chasing the person in front of her. And that's what motivated her to run really, really fast and get those record times. So the race director pointed out, hey, look, the sample set that we have here, like there have only been like a few hundred people that have completed the Badwater race. And there's only 100 people that attempt every single year. So like it's not like the Boston Marathon where setting a record is uh, one in the there's 30,000 people that run every year. So like let's say that 5 million people have completed it. You've got a much larger sample set. And so setting a record in a much larger sample set is really like absolutely incredible. He's saying, well, when there's only hundreds of people, like you're going to have records broken all the time, and it's not as big of an anomaly. So that was pretty fascinating, I thought, and I was glad to see that Ashley Paulson was cleared. It can be difficult to monitor some of these longer runs. If it's a 100-mile race, like there's plenty of time to cheat. You could have a bike along the course, but I think just in general, it's like, why cheat? Why do it? Like it's there's not money in the sport, so that's certainly not the motivator. So there's very little cheating. Sometimes maybe some course cutting would be uh, something I've seen before. What's the longest race that you've ever run? 101 miles. I'm going for 150 next year. You heard it. What do you eat post race? Uh, I really like greasy food. Uh, you guys are the science class here. I don't know why that is. Like, but I crave like chicken fingers and French fries and pizza and like you just want to eat poorly. But you know, a lot of people, a lot of distance runners, their stomach varies. The strength of their stomach and what they can eat during these ultra runs varies. Thankfully, I am built like a tank. So like I can eat anything that is there. I like to eat solid foods, but I've got friends that really they cannot eat a lot of solid food. So they're eating like goos and gels and electrolytes uh, and post race is the same way. Like they don't want to eat post race, but that's not me. Do you drink Gatorade? If so, what's your favorite flavor? I do drink Gatorade. I like Gatorade. I like Tailwind. All sorts of different sports drinks. Lots of times at races, I am just drinking whatever is there, and I am happy for a sugar boost or an electrolyte boost because it's going to get your energy levels up, and it feels really good. And generally speaking, anything red, fruit punch, strawberry, like I'm here for it. It is good. Can you stop for a break in these ultra runs? You can, yeah, absolutely. You can stop for a break. I will stop and lots of times I'll change shoes. Uh, you could stop and take a nap if you wanted to. But the problem or the trap is the longer you stop, you still got to finish the race. So if you were to take a nap, like an hour, I think it'd be really hard to get up and start running again. So I try to minimize the stops. Uh, Really, I'm just trying to get in and out in a couple minutes. Unless there's clothing or shoes that need to be changed, then it's 10, 15 minutes at a stop. If someone got injured by you while you're running, what would you do? Uh, that's a great question. You know, at Boston, um, I did see someone have a heart attack, but She was already being tended to by the paramedics when I saw her. So I felt at that point there's enough people around and there's professionals and it's best just to keep moving. But if I am out in a remote area and someone is injured, uh, it doesn't matter. You know, like they're just races. Like I don't care. Like I'm taking care of the person who is injured and we're gonna get them help, whatever it is that looks like. Uh, I fell during a race one time. It was really bad. Like I tripped on a rock and I've got scarring like all up my shoulder, even like on my wrist. There's scarring and so there's like just blood like all over my body and people stopped to help me. And there's really like not a whole lot that can be done in that instance, in my instance. So it's like, well, thanks, but you know, I'm just gonna walk right now, and I'll figure it out when I get there. Uh, but you know, we got to look out for each other. So I think that's really important. Physical limitations is a good category of questions. Have you ever had to wear a diaper when you run? Uh, I haven't. No, that's it's been a joke before, because it's really like it's. I'm telling you, like ultra running is not a glamorous sport. People do lose control of bodily function sometimes when you've pushed your body to the extreme, and there are instances where like runners can get something called rhabdomyolysis, where your organs start to shut down, and you have to be very conscious of that. So if you do lose control of bodily functions, like you gotta pay attention to that. Thankfully, that's never happened to me, uh, but that may be a reason why you want to stop doing what you're doing if your body is starting to shut down, and so you need to take that very seriously. I don't think people generally mind just stopping to go to the bathroom in these ultra runs because the races are long enough that uh, you just plan that in. Like you're gonna have to go to the bathroom. Lots of times there's porta potties, or maybe you're out in the woods and you got to do what you got to do. What do you do if you have to go to the bathroom but you don't want to stop? So this actually goes into part of the preparations talk, and making sure that uh, if you're doing a fast race, let's say you're doing a 5K, you don't want to stop and go to the bathroom in a 5K, or your time's going to be much higher. Like a 5 minute bathroom break in a 5K, are you kidding me? The marathon's really the same way, where a fast marathon, you don't want to go to the bathroom if you can avoid it. So runners have ways of planning ahead, and like if you know, if you go to the bathroom in the morning and you plan that, and maybe there's like a routine or whatever, a shakeout, and then you go to the bathroom. Like that's uh, it's something important to talk about and to plan for some of these longer races, so that you don't find yourself in that position. Um, are there breaks during an ultra marathon where the contestants sleep for the night? Not typically. No, this we're going all the way through. Do you ever walk during a race? Uh, yeah, for sure. Even my fastest marathon time, I walked at a few aid stations, just to like get my liquids down and then start running again. And then during the ultra runs, there are uh, times where really you have to walk because, let's say the incline is really really steep. So there's one race where it's like a large part of the course is a 26% incline. If you've ever put the treadmill on a 10% incline, like 26%, it's like it feels like you're doing stairs and you're just going like this. So you cannot run that. So there's terrain that physically stops you from running and you have to walk. But there's also times where like uh, if I ran 60 miles and you know what, it's not my day, I might walk for 30 minutes and then try to run for a little while. And you just try to do the best that you can. But uh, generally speaking, walking is great too. You're just trying to get to the finish line. And so there's really no right or wrong way to do it. There's even people that will go and walk entire lengths of ultra marathon courses. That's all they do. They just walk it. And like it's really incredible. It's great. Have you ever passed out during a race? I have not. I've seen it happen before. I've had my field of vision closing and getting narrower and narrower, but thank goodness it's not gone the entire way. What's the hardest part of an ultra marathon? The training cycle. It's like the long training runs where, like, let's say you have to go run for 4 hours on a Saturday and 2 hours on a Sunday. That's tough. Like, it's just a lot of hours where you are out, you're hitting the pavement, and you're bored. Like, you might not have to run at a certain pace, you're just running for a certain time. And so, whatever you can do to fill the time, listen to music, listen to podcasts, talk to friends. But that is, for me, it's difficult because it's just a big time commitment. And then come race day, like that's the exciting day where you get to show up and perform. Uh, do you vape or smoke? Uh, I do not. No. Uh, I don't think that many runners want to smoke, uh, really because of what it does to the lungs, and it. I don't want to do anything that makes it harder for me to breathe. When like my favorite thing to do is it requires uh, breathing, and it would really negatively affect my performance. I think vaping might maybe less so, but I don't do either. Being a highly skilled athlete, oh, why, thank you so much. How did you learn your limits to stay healthy? Uh, I like this one. We're always trying to push our limits. And I think that's kind of a trap that sometimes we fall into, especially in the ultra community, because it's like, well, I'm just going to do a marathon, or I'm just going to do a 50K or 50 mile or 100 mile. And like, what's that next goal? And sometimes people push it really too far and they don't allow their body to recover, and that can cause permanent damage. So it's really trying to find that balance where like you still want to challenge yourself and you want to accomplish new things throughout your life, but you want to do it in a healthy way. Um, for me, a lot of it comes down to like why and what am I doing this for? And anytime I set a goal, it's something that I want. These are things, and it has to be something that I want. Because if it's someone else in my family that thinks it'd be cool that I do this, like it's just that's not motivating for me. Uh, it's not motivating when it comes time to train, to get up at 5 in the morning to go train if it's somebody else's goal. So finding your why is also a very important thing. How do you push through difficult runs when you know that your body is not going to hold up to the challenge? Whew. Well, sometimes you cut them a little bit short. You're like, I had every intention to do this, but you don't always uh, get to the full distance of every run on a training plan, or maybe you set out to run 4 miles and you run 3 miles. But I think it's just uh, pushing through is coming to recognize, like, you know what? Sometimes things are not always going to go as planned. Maybe the run is significantly slower than you wanted it to be. The weather's not what you wanted it to be. But you know what? If you're able to do it and you enjoy it, I feel very blessed to be able to. Now, some talk about gear. Uh, Lots of gear when it comes to running. Are Hoka's the best shoe for marathons and ultras? I love Hoka's. Hoka's feel like you're running on a cloud. It's absolutely wonderful. They make great trail shoes. Trail shoes tend to be like much wider shoes so that your ankle doesn't roll when you're on uneven terrain. Uh, but Hoka's, in my opinion, are not like the best speed shoes. You'll see a lot of like marathoners now wearing the Alpha Flies and the Vapor Flies, the Nike shoes that have the double carbon plate. And uh, I guess a lot of design and engineering went into this with Kipchoge and trying to break 2 hours, and they've really hyped up the product. But it's also led to an increase in a large number of marathon records. So what's funny is like if when I do the Boston Marathon, this is gonna sound like a humble brag, and it kind of is, but I'm on like the first wave, so it's like the fastest runners of the Boston Marathon, and you look around the bus, and these like every single person is wearing Alpha Fly or Vapor Flies from Nike. So it's kind of a groupthink mentality at this point where it's like I've got to have those shoes, but I also swear by them because since I started wearing them, I've seen my marathon times go down. What other kinds of shoes do you wear, and do you change your training shoes often? Uh, I should take you through my closet. I'll take you on a quick tour of the running closet, where all the magic happens. This is the good stuff, yo. So check this out. These are the Nike Vapor Flies that I was talking about. And with each pair of shoes, the mechanics are a little different. The drop is going to be a little bit different. But Nike has built these shoes so that you're running a little more forward on the foot and it springs you along. And they are absolutely fantastic. We've got some of the Alpha Flies. This is the newer version. They changed the drop a little bit. I actually prefer the older version a little bit better, but these are wonderful as well. And those are just goofy looking. Nobody runs in those. And everybody needs a hat, a running hat. Yeah, it's good stuff right here. But we talk about like alternating shoes. So like I've got all my Nike stuff over here. Down there, we've got some trail shoes. We've got the Hoka's that are the cloud shoes that I talk about. They've got really, really thick looking soles, but they're incredibly comfortable to run in. These are some other trail shoes that are good. They're ultras. It's a little thinner on the bottom, but you see the wide base that I was talking about so that your ankle doesn't roll. This has a gator trap, so you can put a little cloth around your ankle and it keeps rocks from coming into your shoe, which is really nice. And then up here, we've got our recovery shoes, and this is like the less glamorous part. These are called UFOs, and they have to be like the absolute ugliest shoes that you have ever seen. But I am telling you, these UFOs, they're amazing. They're amazing. So, day after a 100-mile run, like that is what I want to be wearing is a pair of UFOs or just some form of recovery shoes. Hoka sells them as well. They just allow your foot to mold into the sole. That's the best way I can describe it. But when your feet are really sore and tender, it can be very helpful. When it comes to mentality, what's the best way to get out of your head when you're about to run? I don't know that I have the answer to this one. You just got to do it. You just got to. It's like jumping into a cold pool. Like you don't want to jump into the cold pool, but you just got to close your eyes and jump. And so sometimes that's what it feels like. Is like you really are dreading it. You do not want to go, but when you come back, you're gonna feel better. and you're going to be glad that you did it. So you've just got to go, you've just got to do it. And the more you're able to be consistent with it, the easier it becomes, and uh, the less that you have to get out of your head because it's more routine. So, like for me, running in the morning, running at the same time of the day has been very helpful to get it into the routine. And I don't think about it, I just go and do it. Some days I do think about it. Do you listen to music? What else do you do while you run? I love to listen to music. You do need to be careful if you're running on a road listening to music. I'm also very cautious if I'm running by myself in on a trail, like whether I'm in the desert or the woods or wherever. Uh, you want to be able to listen for animals, for snakes, for other runners. Uh, I came across a rattlesnake one time and almost stepped on it. Uh, so if I do have music in that environment, lots of times I'm just wearing like one headphone, and so I've still got like a way to listen. They also have headphones now that are like bone conduction, so you can listen and you hear the music through the bones in your ears, which is really kind of fascinating. What else do you do while you're running? Uh, Anything that can pass the time. Podcasts are great, audiobooks are great. For long runs, having like a story where you follow the plot, like it's kind of like watching a movie where you can just get lost in it, and that's been very helpful for me for super long runs when you get really bored. Uh, I will tell you the best thing though is going with friends, other people that enjoy running, because you just get lost in conversation and you don't think about what it is that you're doing. So it's a good opportunity to socialize, and that's my favorite. What puts you in a good mood when you're running? Uh, Good weather. Having perfect running weather, and I love the fall when the leaves are changing and uh, just being out in nature. It's so wonderful. And in Lawrence, you guys have an incredible trail system. So I am jealous of where you guys live. There's so many cool places. You've got a good running community. You've got the Lawrence Trailhawks that put on a bunch of races. So it's a really really cool part of Kansas. And if you guys have not been out on the trail network, I would really encourage you to go and to do that. Just in general, I would say running is something that has changed my life. And if you are a runner or want to be a runner, it's just one of those things that is a great lifelong hobby. I think it teaches you so many life lessons, and it's a way to find community and friendships. It keeps you healthy. So I'm, if you can't tell by now, I am certainly a believer in the benefits of running. So that's all I've got today. Thank you so much for all of these wonderful questions. If you've ever got legal questions and want to reach out, or if you ever want to talk about running, feel free to reach out to me anytime. You can reach me. My email is tyler@pattersonlegalgroup.com. But I sure appreciate the invitation to be here today. And I hope to see you out on the trail. We'll see you in Lawrence sometime. Thanks.